We thank you guys for joining us today. Please kindly help to follow the club if you have not already done so. Today, we are going to be uh, talking about the Irish War of Independence and the lessons for the Yoruba nation. I want to use this opportunity to welcome to our midst Are Kuromi, who will be leading in this conversation. Are, you are welcome. Please have the floor.
Shepupo, I greet you all in the name of Olodumare. We welcome you all into Yoruba Nation's room. And tonight's topic will be a very explosive one because we'll be talking about the Irish War of Independence and the lessons for the Yoruba nation. I'm going to be speaking in English and I'm going to be speaking slowly because it's night here. And as I'm speaking, I'm talking about this history. I want us to properly and calmly learn. And in our mind, let us juxtapose what the Irish people went through and what the Yoruba people and other indigenous ethnic groups in Nigeria are also going through. So my speech tonight is my lecture tonight is going to be in three phases. So the first phase is to provide a little historical context to the discourse. The second phase is to talk about how the war actually went on. And the third phase is to talk about what happened in as regards to what is currently happening under Brexit. So I'm going to start by giving a little historical context to what Ireland is. Ireland, the word Ireland means the goddess of prosperity according to Irish custom and tradition. So in Gaelic, it was called Éireann. Éireann. So the English corrupted into Ireland. In fact, the word Scotland is also from a god, one of the deities of the Irish people. So that is where the word Scotland. So it was also corrupted to become Scotland. So the Irish people were majorly indigenous people, and they had Celtic heritage when it comes to their indigenous ethnic nationality. And so that I don't mess things up, so that we have a proper historical context, I'll be starting from the 15th century to the 21st century of Irish history. So I don't want to go back to be talking about what happened 2,000 years ago, or the Normandy invasion, the Viking invasion, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age. So I'm going to be starting from what happened in the 14th century. Now, Ireland was predominantly a Catholic nation, just as as majority of the European powers were also Catholic nations. So during the time of King Henry, there was a schism that happened in Europe between the English crown and the Holy Roman Pope because of the issue of marital issues. So the schism led to England breaking away their spirituality from the control of Rome. So that was how the Church of England, popularly called Anglican, was created. So we can relate and classify the creation of the Church of England to the Protestantism kind of Christianity. But unfortunately, Ireland during that time had already developed a kind of ideology where, apart from their Irish identity, they intertwined their identity with the Catholic faith. And for different times and different centuries, the Irish has always been fighting for their freedom so that they will never be part of the kingdom, like they will never be part of England. So England was ruled, and it was called the Lord of Ireland, the Lordship of Ireland. That was the kind of name that how England was ruled. So it was ruled in a form of a fiefdom, and England conquered Ireland via King Edward. So, but it was ruled like a fiefdom. So they had dukes, kingdoms, and a fiefdom that was a lord that was appointed by the king or queen of England, who ruled. So it was this kingdom, it was this lord. I'm trying to lay a basic historical context so that we can actually understand what happened in Ireland. So, after the King of England became a Protestant, the Irish people refused to change their faith, and they pledged their alliance and their allegiance to the Catholic Pope in Rome. And why did they do this? They did this so that they felt if they pledged their allegiance to the Catholics in Rome, they would give them the military support that they might need to get freedom from Rome, well, from England. But that was not the case. So, between the 14th and 15th century, there were different rebellions that were taking place in Ireland. So it was a very big problem for the English, because the English have been able to assimilate the people, the Welsh. They've been able to assimilate through intermarriage, also through aristocracy. They've been able to subjugate Scotland, but the Irish were ungovernable. The Irish were still insisting that they were never going to be part of England. So one of their major excuse, before they were all Catholics, they were Catholics like the King or Queen of England. So immediately the King of England became Anglican, became a Protestant. They started saying, because it was a big deal in Christianity then, that Christianity, Protestants and Catholics used to kill themselves in millions in battlefield. Just like what we have in Islam now, where you have the Sunni and the Shiites fighting and killing themselves due to religious differences. So I'm trying to. This is a simplistic view of what happened in Ireland in relation to how they got into British imperialism. So, pardon me if I'm too simplistic in my approach, because I don't want us to spend so much time spewing a lot of historical jargons while we miss out on the crux of why we are having this historical lesson. So, the English knew they had to do something fast. That if they were to properly annex and conquer Ireland, they have to do the following things. One, they have to stop the teaching of the teaching and speaking of Gaelic language. So English language was made compulsory for all the Irish. That was one. Two, they had to change the demography and look for a way to alter the indigenous population, indigenous Irish population in Ireland, because they found out that these people were speaking with one voice. So how can they do this? They've been able to conquer Ireland through war, but politically and economically and spiritually, which is in order to change their Christian faith from Catholicism into Protestantism, was almost impossible for the British. So what did the British people do? The English crown did. So the English crown did. They started this. They planned a 300-year destruction of the Irish people. So it took different governments, different kings, different queens to gradually implement the total assimilation of the Irish into the English crown, because the English people had a long-term goal, and they felt that Ireland will supply them with the land needed in order to control Europe, in order to build their empire. So when we talk about the Commonwealth Empire was built when Ireland, Wales, Scotland, the whole of Ireland, the whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales was under the control of England. So you can see how important land, you can see how important size is very important, is very crucial in the building of any empire. So that is why one Nigeria is extremely important for the Fulanis in the achievement of their agenda. So they went to the next stage. And what did they do? A decree was enacted in England that English and Scottish Protestants that should migrate into Ireland. This happened in the 16th century, throughout 16th century. So, and this particular ideology was called secular colonialism. So in secular colonialism, this particular class of English and Scottish nobility who were not indigenous to Ireland. Ireland was a separate island. That it has no land border with England. So they had to bring non-indigens who were majorly of the nobility class to come and settle permanently in Ireland in their millions. So they tried to carve out territories, cantons, councils, just like what is happening in Nigeria across Ireland. But the Irish people in the west and southern part of Ireland, they resisted and they organized armed revolts in order to prevent the Scottish and the English from settling down within their midst. But there was a part of Ireland called Ulster, which was even more closer to England and Scotland, where they were able to use diplomacy, to use violence, to use bloodshed, to settle the non-indigenous Scottish and English farmers, peasants, noblemen who were Protestants in that particular area. So the English government gave them money, gave them arms, they passed laws, in order to make sure so as to protect these people in that particular part of Ireland. And they thought if they could perfect this ideology of putting these people, making these people become permanent settlers in that part of Ireland, they are going to replicate this agenda in the other three remaining regions in Ireland. So this particular area presently in this 21st century is where we call Northern Ireland. So we must put this in context. So if you are a Yoruba man supporting Ruga, you are enemy number one to the entire Yoruba race, because you are collaborating with those that have decided to destroy your people. So after this was done, the next law that the British Crown passed was that the Protestants, no Catholic must marry a Protestant, so as to protect the population that they shipped from the mainland in Scotland and England into Ireland. Number 3, the Gaelic language was outlawed. You cannot use the Gaelic language as the language of commerce, economics, politics, military, science, literature, poetry. So the Gaelic language was outlawed. So if you are caught speaking the Gaelic language, you can be fined or sent to jail. This was what the English did to the Irish. So when you saw when many people did not know why, when England lost the Euro final to Italy, and you saw people in Northern Ireland and Ireland jumping up to celebrate that England was disgraced, it is more than sports. It is an historical issue that they can never forgive themselves to eternity. So if you think tribalism, it is only blacks that are tribal, it is blacks that are tribalism, you are highly and grossly misinformed. The ethnic divide and the ethnic differences in Europe, most especially between the Irish and English, is more toxic than any ethnic hatred in Africa. This is an hatred, that where people are still being killed till this present moment. So you have to understand that we are not alone in this battle to survive and in this battle to protect our heritage. As I was saying, to further cement the total annexation of Ireland into England, the English crown passed a law where all the lands, normally it was the Gaelic aristocrats, together with the Catholic Church and the Catholic clergymen, who controlled the land in Ireland. So what do they do? What the English did? They took all the lands. They went for all the lands, all the lands. Don't forget the Land Use Act in 1976 that was enacted in order to take lands away from the indigenous people of Nigeria and give it to aristocrats. Don't forget that during this period, most of the governors in Nigeria were military head of state. You had a time where a Fulani man could become the governor of Rivers State. You had a time when a Igbo man can become the governor of Sokoto State. You had a time period where a Yoruba man will become the military governor of Kaduna State. It was possible under the military dictatorship. This was when they enacted the Land Use Act. So you have to understand that every policy that the Nigerian Fulani oligarchy, together with their southern collaborators, were implementing in Nigeria, it was done based on the advice of the powers that be. So the destitution, denigration, and destruction of southern Nigeria that the Fulanis are embarking on, together with the sellout in our midst, is not just something they are picking from the sky. It is something that the British, is a war manual of the British that they've used in different lands and indigenous spaces to destitute and to destroy the indigenous people. So the lands were also taken away, because what happened was this: since the people ruling Ireland were now the Anglo-Irish aristocrats, the settlers became the ruling class, just like the Fulanis, and they gave them the political power, and the Irish who wanted power joined the English in the subjugation and destruction of their people. So they were the landowners all of a sudden. So it's just what happened in 1976. So it's just like we didn't know how dangerous that was, because the implementation was not was not quick. You understand? Just imagine that they said all the land in Nigeria belongs to the federal government. So we are not going to even have a discussion. That was the saving grace. That is the saving grace why the land of our local government has not become Fulani colony. So somebody like Buhari will just take pencil and ruler, divide it, and give 2 local governments to all the Fulanis across the south. So this was what the English did. They just say, okay, because this is the ruling class, these are the senators, these are the dukes, these are the duchesses, these are the lords, and they gave this new nobility the control over the land. So the Catholic clergymen and the Catholic Church, they started getting support from France, getting support from other European powers in order to organize and fight against British imperialism. The other part of Europe that was supporting the Irish in fighting the English, they were not doing it because they loved the Irish. They were doing it because of politics, so as to destroy English hegemony and to promote Catholicism, which was more of a political movement than a religious movement during that time. So we had different because of this imperialistic agenda of the English. We had different rebellions, like the 1640 rebellion, 1741 rebellion, and each of these rebellions were crushed, where thousands to millions of Irish people were destroyed and defeated. Now, let me now give you this. For every rebellion that the Irish people brought up to claim back their sovereignty and their land, the English were busy implementing far more draconian rules in order to destroy the Irish people. So we had a movement called the Catholic clergy movement. So that in Ireland, around in the 18th century. So the movement was that they wanted, there were two movements then. The first movement was that one was they were in the minority. They were like, they wanted Ireland to be a sovereign and independent state. And they got their inspiration from the French Revolution, where the French monarchy was destroyed and order was abolished, and the people believed that everybody is born equal, and that's how they got their own ideology. It happened towards the end of the 18th century. The second ideology of the French, of the second group, were the people that were saying, we know we are under English imperialism. Why not just let us control our space, give us our parliament, let us have control our land, and we are going to be paying taxes to the English government. Does that sound familiar? Those are the classes of people who believe in what? Restructuring through federalism. They are the people who continue to play with words. So in Ireland, I'm talking about 300 years ago, we had people like that too. In Ireland. So they were saying, look, don't let us be too radical. If we are too radical, they killed us in 1640, they killed us in 1540. Oliver Cromwell massacred a lot of Irish people, from thousands to millions, in the rebellion, who wanted Irish sovereignty. So it is better we ask for a restructuring, and we can have our autonomy using this via a political movement. But the radical ones were telling them there is no way that you can negotiate with their English. The English are here to take over Ireland completely. So there was a bloody rebellion that happened in towards the end of the 18th century, in 1790s. And I talked about the French Revolution. So the French revolutionaries started training and sending money, ammunitions to Irish nationalists. And they launched. So don't forget that before this time, they've launched nothing less than 3 to 4 uprisings, in order to chase away English invaders from their land. But in every generation, they never stopped fighting. That is the difference between the English, the Irish, and other subjugated people of the world. They didn't say because we fought 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they gave up. They kept on fighting. Doesn't matter how much people were killed. So they were making all sorts of laws. Their language went into extinction. Only few people. So if you are caught speaking the language, there was a time, even they started saying they should be killed if you start speaking Gaelic. So it was as tough as that. So after the 1790, between 1790 and 1800, there was another rebellion. The English nobility and the English crown came together and passed a law. It was called the Union Act. It was called the Union Act, just like the Unification Decree of 1966. What is in the Unification Decree of 1966? The Unification Decree of 1966 was that all the civil service, the parliament, the political structure, the economic structure of Nigeria became centralized. The British did the same thing in 1801 to the Irish. So, before, United Kingdom was called the United Kingdom of England, Scotland, Wales, and the Lord of Ireland. Now it became United Kingdom of the British of Scotland, of England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. So England was now ruled directly. So the little freedom that they had, I said before, the Anglo-Irish aristocrats that used to be, the state assemblies, the council assemblies that used, for instance, I'm just making a kind of a comparison, that used to be in Lagos, that used to be in Osogbo, that used to be in Ibadan. They were now mandated to stop sitting in Ireland. All their political leaders started sitting in London. So the political leaders in Ireland went to London in the House of Lords, House of Commons. That was where they were sitting. Just like you have people in Abuja, sitting in Abuja to represent Yoruba people. So they could easily be making laws in order to control Yoruba people. You understand? To control Yoruba people in to control Yoruba people in Abuja. So the Irish went through the same thing. So they took all the political, at least semi-freedom that they enjoyed. That I think these people needs to be treated with iron hands. And this was the beginning of destitution of the Irish people. Because after the Unification Decree of 1801, because I'm just laying the foundation, now I'm going to go in proper now. And everything I've said, you can go online, go to libraries, and you are going to be amazed that there is no difference in what the Fulanis and the British are doing in Nigeria to the southern and middle belt indigenous people until what they did to the Irish people. So this is the first part of the lecture. The second part of the lecture is to discuss what happened between 1801 and 1910 before the start of the First World War. Thank you very much. Mr. Bami.
All right, thank you so much, Are. We're going to take only 2 questions. If you have questions for the background that Are has laid, kindly just flash your mic. We're going to take 2 questions, and Are can go back to the lecture proper. Please flash your mic. Are, people want you to continue.
Thank you very much, everyone. So, today, the topic once again is the Irish War of Independence and the lessons for the Yoruba nation. What I've just spoken about is to discuss and explain, lay the historical foundation of how the Irish people were destituted. So, and I stopped at the Unification Act that was done in 1801. You see, for the total destruction of the Irish people, the English people did the following. One, there was the cultural genocide. The cultural genocide in the sense that the Gaelic language was outlawed. Gaelic religion was outlawed by the English. The Gaelic philosophy of life was destroyed. So what gave them that Gaelic identity, which was the pure Irish identity, was destroyed. Two, their land was taken away from them and appropriated to people that belonged to the aristocrats, which was selected by the British overlord. Just like what happened in the Land Use Act of 1976. Three, the Constitution, which was basically built on Celtic philosophy, in which the Irish people embraced, was replaced with the Anglo-Saxon ideology of life. Four, there was a political genocide. I don't know how I'm going to explain further. The ruling elite, which was predominantly and traditionally the Gaelic Catholic people, indigenous people, were replaced with the Anglo-Irish aristocrats. Who are the Anglo-Irish aristocrats? These were people who married into Irish culture, who married into English families, who married Scottish families, people who talk like English, people who dress like English, people who converted into Protestantism, people who embraced the English way of life. Also, they made sure that there was the displacement of the indigenous people. They did a secular colonialism, which was they shipped in thousands to millions of English people from England to settle in the northern part of Ireland, which is called Northern Ireland today. And they thought if they were going to replicate that secular colonialism in all parts of Ireland, because this was what England was doing in Australia, this was what England was doing in Canada, this was what England was doing in Guyana, this was what England was doing in America. So this was the agenda. This was what they were doing in South Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, now called Cape Town. So this was what they were doing across the world. So they felt this was the final straw that would break the camel back in Ireland. So predominantly, the Irish tried to fight back, even though they were in total destitution and disarray. They were alone, they didn't get any help properly from the rest of Europe. So they took over Northern Ireland. But the Irish people managed to prevent them from spreading towards Ireland, into other part of Ireland. Even though this came at the loss of lives and property for the Irish people. Yes. Now, this is the most interesting part of the lecture. Not even the War of Independence. Because what happened to the Irish people is about to happen to the Yoruba people and the rest of Nigeria. Let us listen attentively so that instead of responding, instead of reacting, instead of reacting, we will be responding to the threat. Because there's a difference between responding to a threat and reacting to a threat. After the Unification Act, the Irish people became destitute in their land. So they were just tenants. They controlled nothing. So if you hear things like Irish potato, the development and of Irish potato to becoming the staple food in Ireland and across Europe was because of the colonialism of Ireland by the English. So the Irish people were so poor that the only food they could be growing in their garden, at least that could grow and they could eat, was Irish potato. They were highly malnourished. So their staple food was Irish potato, and their only beverage was water. There was a popular quotation. So if you a popular quote, if you go at that period of time in England, there used to be signposts like that: dogs and Irish are not allowed in this hall. Dogs and Irish are not allowed in this church. Just like the Jim Crow ideology, where black people were being segregated, the Irish people were the people they used for that racial and racial experiment. So if any idiot, sorry to use that word, is telling you we are not blacks, it's not supposed to be like that. Go and look at what the English. These are people that ancestrally they share genetic and historical things together. But many of them are virtually Celt fundamentally in their ethnic origins. So this was what the English did. This is the kind of history that every Irish father and mother teach their children. That this must never happen to Ireland again till eternity. They would rather die than pass through the period of humiliation that the English people did to the Irish people. So the between in 1940, a problem started brewing in Ireland. And what was the problem? The problem was this. The problem was this. The problem was there was a gradual famine that people started complaining of famine. Now, what happened? There was a fungus, like a fungal infection of many of the potato farms in Ireland. So because of this, there was food shortage and food prices soared and basic commodities became expensive. Secondly, there was a policy that, I said it was basically hybrid Anglo-Irish people, mixed breed, and their Irish collaborators and the English that were basically controlling the Irish economy, and they were controlling the Irish land. So for every 3/4 of the food, grains, the cereals that was cultivated and produced in Ireland, 3/4 of these commodities were exported to England. So it's not a matter of the Irish people eating enough or not. This particular their commodities were exported to England, exported to other part of Europe. So because it was the landowners, this is a classical definition of feudalism. It's just like when some people say they want to export yam for foreign exchange, when people in Canada, people cannot eat, and you want to be exporting yam, just like what they are doing in Nigeria. They tell you foreign exchange. It doesn't matter, maybe you guys have not eaten, and the price of one Congo of Gari has become 2,000 naira. What they are interested is foreign exchange. The economy that works for the oligarchs, why the people continue to starve. That was when they asked Umaru Diko that people are starving in Nigeria. He said they are not, the people are not picking food in the dustbin. And the present minister for agriculture, when they said things are hard in the country, that poverty has become the order of the day, he said with 20 naira, people can live well in a day. Why are people complaining? This was the way the English aristocrats were responding when Catholic bishops were writing from Ireland to Britain. We beg you, we have not been violent. We only want to survive as a people. We pass a law to stop the exportation of farm produce, because the normal potato that we used to eat 3 times a day, there is a fungal infection called P. infestans that is currently destroying our farm produce. Our people can no longer afford to eat. Stop this. Food has become expensive. Please, so that we can survive. If you don't know, Nigeria has the second highest, Nigeria is the second ranked, where basic food commodity is the most expensive in the world. So food is more cheaper in America, in Germany, in Britain, in Australia, in New Zealand. That means if you earn what you earn in Nigeria, you are going to eat like a king when you come to the Western world, if it is just for you to eat. That means people cannot afford to buy staple food. That is utmost destitution currently happening in Nigeria. It has also happened before in Ireland. So every writer, nationalist that wrote in newspaper to talk about what, and even if you even protest to what was happening to the Irish people, you are going to be threatened, you are going to be charged with treason and sedition. It's either you are sentenced to death or banished, sent to exile in Bermuda, in Seychelles, all these kind of places. This was what the English were doing. So they were saying, and the English nobility started sponsoring, fake activists. People that will say, the suffering of the Irish people are just being overemphasized. You are just overstating it. How many people, just like somebody said that, is it not just 20 people killed in Kaduna? It's not too much. Is it not just 300? And you said 350. Some people say, is it not 30? It is 30, not 32. What is currently happening in southern Nigeria? That was what the English people did in Ireland. So when you look at what the Irish people went through and what the Fulani people and the Irish and the English are doing in Nigeria, you will be shocked. You will be shocked. That is why the English people, the English government, the English parliament is so comfortable in giving a pass and a media blackout to the ethnic genocide and the extermination of indigenous people in the Middle Belt and the South because they've done worse in history. They've done worse. So it is a civilization built on the killings and destruction of the lives of others. So if the English can be doing that, they could do that for the Irish for 500 years, then who are you, black man? Who are you? That you think they will even give a damn? You think this is the 21st century, things have changed? Nothing has changed. The game is still the same. Until you decide that it's either you get freedom or death. So, as I was saying, during this time, the Irish people became officially the poorest people in Europe. So they became the headquarters of peasantry and destitution in Europe. And between 1830 and 1850, 1/4 of the population of Ireland died of hunger and malnutrition because of three things. The staple food that they were surviving was killed by fungal infections. Secondly, all the food they were producing, a law was made that it must be exported. So the people producing the food could not eat. It was exported for foreign exchange because the landowners were making more money. The landowners already were the English aristocrats. Their land has been taken away from them. Then lastly, this was the joker. The English and the Scottish nobility, which was headed by the king, said Irish lands was very good for cattle grazing. This is where I'm going. If you don't believe me, go online. They said the Irish lands was more profitable for cattle grazing. So what did they do? They made laws. They gave concessions. They gave subsidies that made sure that 80% of the lands in Ireland, as big as it was used for cattle for cattle rearing. So the lands was used to produce beef that was now sent to England, Scotland, Wales, and the rest of Europe and the Western world. Why the Irish people could not feed. So, because the cattle business was more profitable, the Irish people's lands were, was prevented from being used for crop farming. So from crop farming, they used the instrument of coerciveness to make sure that they started doing cattle processing. Am I making sense? D used to talk about gave an economy that the agriculture and crop economy in Nigeria is almost 33 trillion. Why the cattle business is just 3 trillion? Why will the government be taking lands from the people of Benue, the food basket of the nation, the people of Taraba, the food basket of the nation, Nasarawa, Plateau, Oyo State, the food Okiogun, Ekiti, those are the food basket of the nation, and we want and be confiscating lands for killer herdsmen who are doing a business that contributes little or nothing to the economy, because these people belong to a different ethnic and aristocratic class in the Lugadian contraption called Nigeria. Is there any difference? This was what they did to the Irish, and 22.5 million Irish people died in 40 years. So 1/4 of the population perished. So Ireland had 8 million, Irish people were 8 million, 2 million died. Now let me now shock you. You know, I told you about the part, that northern Irish part. The part of that northern island had a different economic, political system. They had concessions. They could use their own land for farming because those people were Scottish and English, and they were Protestants. They looked the other way. Those ones could bring in food, importation. So this was what they did for the Irish people. The food they were processing, they exported it. And the food they didn't have, they prevented them from importing. They call it the protectionists under the Tory government in 1847. They say, why should we be importing what we have? Just the way Buhari shut your border and made you guys start eating grass. By the time you know what this man has done to you, the next 100 years, some generation will ask themselves, what were you thinking? They will ask in your grave. And you endured this humiliation and you never spoke up for your race.
Just like we are asking Azikiwe.
So, this was what the English did to further corroborate my point. One, between 1840 and 1860, 250,000, close to 250,000 Irish people emigrated and fled their ancestral land for life. That was how the level of poverty was. And any means and any way that the Irish people were trying to beg the King of England, they spoke to when the former Prime Minister of the ex-Prime Minister of England then, very fantastic English Jew. His name was Benjamin Disraeli. When they were trying to speak to him, like, look, we are dying. You know, okay, all our land, you've taken it. Our resources, you've taken it. We are ready to bring money, at least borrow money. Let them bring food and let us eat. They said, no, the borders must be shut. Nobody will import food into Ireland. So it was a calculated genocide. Total decimation of the Irish. So 250,000 ran away every year. And which countries did they go to? They went to America. They went to Canada. They went to Australia. They went to South Africa. Many of them went to England to act as slaves and indentured servants so as to put food on the table. In fact, 3/4 of the people in Liverpool, current day Liverpool in England, were descendants of those who escaped that great famine. You can Google it, the Great Famine of Ireland. And you are going to see the crime against humanity that the English deep people did against Ireland. They did against Ireland. They did the same thing for the Indians during the Second World War. Winston Churchill did the same thing. The footmen for the Indians, they took it away and sent it to England. And close to 5 million Indians perished in 2 years. That's why when you mention Winston Churchill, in some places of the world, he is called a cold-blooded murderer. So this is their ideology. Is it different from what the Fulanis are doing? They close your border, they close everything while you guys continue to eat grass. And their kinsmen continue to take over, destroy your farms. And they continue to confiscate your lands using democracy, politics, and one Nigeria. I'm going to stop here. Before I stop here, before I go to the third part, because I need to take I need to take water. 1 out of every 5 Irish who migrated to Canada, when they got to Canada, 1 out of them died of malnutrition and disease that they brought from Ireland. So let's say 200,000 Irish people migrated, at least they were in Canada. I think it was around 1951. 40,000 people died. 40,000 of them died. And they still around Quebec. They died, they perished. So the population of Ireland fell by almost 45% within 50 years. And they said, why did this happen? It happened because of the Unification Act. It nailed that was a coffin on the nail, because the little political control where they could have even controlled what they could import and export was taken away from them and taken to London. The way your political power, your security power, your educational power, your historical power, your cultural power, everything was taken away from you and was taken to Abuja. That is why the Benin artifact being returned by Germany, federal government can be controlled by the Fulanis and the Salafists, can say they want to take it on behalf of the Benin people. I have to rest here.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Are. Please mute your mics. We're going to give Are an opportunity to rest for 2 minutes. And we're going to take the last part. Then we can ask the question. Please, you're welcome to Yoruba Nation Club. Please follow the room by clicking on the greenhouse icon. Let's proceed by this short musical break. Thank you so much. Now to the final lap of the program for tonight. Are, can you please go ahead?
Thank you very much, sir. I greet everyone once again in the name of Olodumare. Now, back to the discourse. During this period of darkness for the Irish people, the Irish people that migrated to America, to Canada, to other parts of the world, as at 1850s and 1860s, started sending money home to their people. So it was the money that was sent by the Irish who flee their homes, their motherland, to different parts of the world to work as laborers. In fact, the Irish people were the most humiliated Europeans during that time. You can Google indentured servants. You are going to see Irish. Indentured servants were just a little bit above slaves. They were close to slaves. They were ready to do anything just to put food on the table. This was the level to which the English reduced these people to. So there was a diaspora remittance. And these diaspora remittances, as at 1851, was £1,400,000. In today's currency will be billions. That they sent back to their people to feed. Southern Nigerians. Does this ring a bell to you? Yorubas. There are many people here that the money we send home is what close to 20 members of our families are feeding on. You pay tuition fees, you pay for medical health care, you pay for rent for people back home because it's a period of destitution for people back home. That is why you see the federal government controlled by the Fulanis hates southern diasporans. Because after they chased us away from our motherland and we became destitute, they still want us to make sure that our people die in poverty. We are not alone, and we are not the first, and neither are we going to be the last, or last never. The Irish people did the same thing. They left in tears, but they were sending their widow's mites to their cousins back home so that they could survive. Everything I've said, just Google it in different books. So this was how many of them, they started recovering from the famine because at least they would have money. They had money. They started lobbying American government to start lobbying the English government, their people in Ireland, in America. Because the Irish people in America, they were the strongest. That's why you see the current president of America, Kennedy, Biden, is Irish. Jeff Kennedy was also Irish. They are the descendants of those who left in pains and tears. And they were also instrumental for the freedom of Ireland when it was needed to go to all-out war against England. They were the ones. So, towards the end of the 19th century, there were radical movements that started then, like creation of political parties like Sinn Féin, radicals group that said it's either they get the freedom by peace or they do anything necessary to get their freedom. They would rather die than experience what has happened to them. So what just happened to them was genocide. And the English people never even gave a damn. Why the people in Ireland were being decimated and there was 40% the population of Ireland, the English people were living like kings. And the English were so smart, they were carrying the Scottish along. Divide and rule, divide and conquer. For every 100 things that the English looted from Ireland, they were giving the Scottish nobility 20 and 30, 20 and 30. That's why you see, when the Fulani people want to rule Nigeria, it's either they bring Igbos, they give them 30, or they bring Yoruba, they give them 30, and hold the rest of the country in bondage. Why they continue to decimate everybody. And while our elites continue to shout, one Nigeria. They've even lost out touch with reality and say, yes, is it only Nigeria they are killing people? They are killing people in the US too. That's how insane they become. That's how insane they have become. So, when the English government saw what was coming, they started saying they need a diplomatic solution and a peace. Let us negotiate. The United Kingdom is the best. Nobody should leave United Kingdom. United Kingdom was defined. It is God that has made United Kingdom unbreakable, unnegotiable. That was the speech of the English. This was what they were saying. So they said, okay, we know that what we've done is bad. We've taken the land for close to 300 years. So if you want land, come and start buying it. So the Irish people in the diaspora, if you want their land back, they should start buying it. The Irish people in the diaspora started sending money home so that their people can start buying the land. And it was a big shock to the English that the Irish diaspora that they sent the Irish diasporans that they sent away, thinking that would have been the end of them, did not forget their heritage back home. That is why it is not just insane, diabolical, and satanic for the children of our oppressors to tell those of us in the diasporas to forget our mothers, our fathers, and our kinsmen languishing in poverty back home, in Yoruba land, in Ijaw land, in Ala-Igbo, in Benin land, in Efik land, in Anak land, in Tiv land, in Birom land. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land when our land is under occupation? That's why they keep on shouting the diaspora is a problem, because they know that we are not plan of their they never thought that we could ever be we could be disinterested in the freedom of our people, because there is no freedom fight that you can do in poverty. And it was until the Irish diaspora in Australia, in America, in Canada, in New Zealand started fighting back and the Irish diaspora in South Africa started fighting back for their people. That was when they started getting freedom. So when you see somebody telling you guys in the diaspora, those are the agents of darkness who want us to get destroyed. We're on the right path. Let's keep on moving. So they enacted the Land Purchase Act. They also they started saying, okay, maybe we should decentralize, we should restructure. Let the Irish people control their parliament in Ireland. We should reverse the 1801 Act. Don't forget, the 1801 Unification Act had already wiped out close to 3 to 4 million people. People have been displaced. People's lives have been wiped out. Because of that act, they cannot be brought back to life. Just like what the Unification Decree, the unitary system of government of Nigeria has done for the past 60 years. Continue to shout restructuring under a unitary system of government, your life will get worse. So when they saw that some people were ready to go all the way, you can see what they say, what IPOB is doing, the Yoruba nationalists are doing, the Ijaw nationalists are doing. They said, let us create more states to placate them, to buy more time. But fortunately, the Irish people never fell for it because they understood their history. that for every negotiation and soft landing and shortcut you have with these people, they will destroy you. Talking about the English. There's no difference between the English and the Fulanis. No difference. That is why they could work hand in hand. It's not about religion, it's the ideology. What they stand for is the exploitation and destruction of indigenous people. That's what they've been doing across West Africa. Nothing. That is what they stand for. The indigenous people must be exploited. The indigenous people must be subjugated. The indigenous people must be suppressed. The indigenous people must be oppressed. The indigenous people must be dehumanized. The indigenous people must be enslaved. This is what they stand for. That is one Nigeria for you. That was why the British created one Nigeria. Destruction of indigenous people. And Fulanis have taken over from there. That's why they are together. That's why the British ambassador is crisscrossing Nigeria, shouting, one Nigeria. He's not interested in justice, not interested in... The English ambassador is even advising Southerners to leave their land and come and study in America, in UK. Emigrate, leave your space, and Fulanis will take it. It sounds funny, but it's the truth. This is what they did in Ireland. That's what they did in Ireland. So you have to understand that you have to ask any Irish, if you have as a friend, and let them tell you what the English did to them. They will weep, they will cry. So, the Irish nationalists and the radicals, they said, we are tired of talking. We are going all the way. This was a game changer. So they said, okay, we are going to give you home rule. Now, let me now shock you. You know, I told you about Northern Ireland, where they settled settler colonialism, where they settled the English. Those ones started protesting. One Nigeria is good. One Nigeria is okay. We are all island. We are all Irish people. Nothing is wrong with the unitary system of government. It is normal for Fulani people to control all the seaports. And you start asking yourself, I bet you have Yoruba name now. Why are you supporting this? You guys are xenophobic. You guys are spring eight. Why don't you support? Let's support this one Nigeria. And an example of such leader, his name was Roger Casement and Robert Glending. They were from this northern part of Ireland. They were supporting the continuous dehumanization of Ireland. Even though they were from Ireland, they were mixed blood of Irish people and the descendants of the Scottish and English settlers. Just like we have in Ilorin. So they are the Meshujambas. No apologies. So if you allow these Fulani people to enclose your space, your children will curse you naked. No apologies. This is a Yoruba house. I can see what this is Yoruba house. You are selling land, giving out your children, your daughters. To these people, you do not think about the future. Go and read what happened to the Northern Irish people in Ulster. This is what happened. I'm talking with passion tonight. Because this is more than just speaking English and trying to give a lecture. It has to come from the heart. From the heart. So that you can understand. I'm narrating the pains of some people. I have Irish friends. When they told me it is true. So as of 1913, when the English people, the English government, they were telling the Queen of England, like, look, the King of England, we do not have to go to war. There is a problem brewing in Ireland. And the radical elements calling for self-determination is gaining more support in Ireland. It is better we give them quick concessions politically in order to stop this tide. In Northern Ireland, the descendants of the settlers were saying, no, you must keep the status quo. You must embrace the unitary system of government. Nobody must move. Nobody goes anywhere. You must control the ports. You must control the land. You must control every damn thing. You must teach these useless secessionists a lesson. Kill them, maim them. That was what they were doing. So, the English people, they were so smart. They gave Ireland self-rule. And it's the name of the man that got it, the leader of that, the leader that was able to negotiate to get, he was an Irish, a moderate Irish, because he told the English, if you don't listen to me, there is problem coming the next coming years. And his name was John Redmond. So in 1914, the First World War started. And the English people started recruiting and looking for people that would go and fight the First World War. So the Irish radicals, hardcore nationalists, maybe I'm even part of them, people like me, or Mr. Bami, or all the rest people here. They said, why should we go and be fighting under the British Army when we are also under bondage in our homeland? So they waited. Immediately, the British people were fighting Germany, fighting the Ottoman Turks in the First World War. They declared the Easter Uprising. So the Irish Republican Army was formed. And the republicanism is that all men are born equal. You do not have to belong to a particular aristocratic class, have a particular DNA, or belong to a particular societal class before you can attain anything in life. So that was the ideology of the formation of the Irish Republican Army. So when they formed the Irish Republican Army, there was a fight that should they go through conventional warfare and guerrilla warfare. So they decided to go through the guerrilla warfare. And the leader and the most influential and the most powerful leader of this struggle, his name was Imon Valeria. So what he did was simple. He left Ireland and went to America and started touring and going to all the Irish descendants in America, rallying their support, touring all the states in America, anywhere you could find them, collecting donations, money, logistics, men, in order to prepare for the battle at the home front. So immediately the British came back. So the 1916 was when they started. The English were able to crush this uprising, killed as many as possible. And the leaders of this uprising, they were all taken and executed. There was a particular British soldier then, the sergeant then, he said, this is the end of the Irish struggle. He didn't know that what he did in executing the leaders of this 1916 uprising actually created more radicals. And this was the beginning of the end for England, for the English. After 500 years of the subjugation of the Irish in Ireland. So in 1919 to 1921, the war started. So the Northern Irish in Northern Ireland, which was majorly populated by descendants of the settlers, started telling the Irish, to the English and British government, kill as many Irish people as possible, wipe them out. Ireland must remain part of United Kingdom. So that is why when people ask some questions, that, are you sure you are Yoruba the way you are talking? Are you sure your father is not, sorry to say that, use those words. Are you sure you are pure blood? Because this has happened before in history. And most times it's true. People that have identity crisis are always the ones supporting the decimation of their people. If you go into their genealogy, you cannot be a true-born Yoruba man, a true-born Igbo man, and be supporting the destruction of their people. Something must be wrong spiritually or physically or genetically somewhere. That's why you see NYSC, they'll be saying if you intermarry, if you do this kind of thing, we are going to give you more money. Because they are planning your destruction in the next 10, 20 years or 50 years. And people in the middle belt will understand this better. Promoting intermarriage. But that will not stop them from slaughtering you when the time comes. So, to cut to the chase, between 1920 and 1921, 1919 and 1921, the war started. It was a bloody civil war, bloody war of independence. All political solutions are failed. What the Irish nationalists were saying is this: they will continue to bomb, they will continue to decimate, they will continue. In fact, the next stage of their struggle was to bring terror into England itself. That for 500 years you've been terrorizing us in Ireland. Your city in London, your city in Liverpool, your city in Manchester, you will not also get peace. So that was when the King of England, there was a particular general from South Africa, and other European powers quickly came to the table. Let the Irish people go. That was how they were able to sign the pro-independence. But they now said there was a clause. They are going to give them independence, but Ireland must remain part of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth that Nigeria is still part, and you are saying you are independent. Some Irish nationalists said, we cannot get this kind of freedom. We must get out of anything. They don't want to see anything called English. So they had to do another constitution, destroyed any form of English legacy. The only thing they could not remove was their English language. Because their language was subjugated and suppressed for 500 years. So they have to start going back to literatures in order to revive their language. Even though they are trying. And the English people, the English now gave them a condition. That part of Ulster, Northern Ireland, will never be part of Ireland. And the English people also said Ireland will be called Southern Ireland. The hardcore nationalists erased all these things and they said this country will be called Ireland. And they regard Northern Ireland as part of their land. They took over their space and they got their freedom through blood and iron. In fact, for many years, Ireland was not recognized by any European power or any world power. The English were lobbying other powers. Do not recognize these people. Treat them like traitors. It was their Irish diasporans that helped them pay the supreme sacrifice. In fact, the first country that recognized Ireland was Russia, because the Russian Bolshevik revolutionary leaders who overthrew the Caesars in Russia were also not recognized by anybody. So it was just a combination of two rogue nations. That's why you see that Ireland is always supporting every self-determination movement in the world. The major leader, major supporter of the Palestinian freedom fight in Europe, in the Western world, is Ireland. Because they know that anywhere, if Britain goes right, Ireland goes left. That has been their policy to date. Nothing has changed. This is the basic summary of the Irish War of Independence. And this is the motivation. It should serve as a motivation for all self-determination fighters across the world. A luta continua victoria asata. I yield the mic. Ọ̀tún bàbá mi, over
Thank you,
to
thank you so much, Are Kurumi. That was intense. That was powerful. Now we're going to take questions and contributions. I know a lot of us has got questions and contributions and comments, and I'm going to open the hand raising function so people can come up to the stage and speak. Already, I'm getting some people raising their hands already. Please let us know if you have questions. Please mute your mics as you come up to the stage. Please flash your mic if you have contributions or comments.